Well, good morning and welcome to the Internet Business Blueprint podcast, simulcast on my Ustream channel. This is James Holmes, your host of this daily, at least weekday, podcast and now vcast. I'm here every Monday through Friday at 11 o'clock a.m. Eastern Standard Time. And basically our course of conversation and the training that takes place here, which is 100% generic, really focuses on the areas of direct sales, network marketing, affiliate marketing, and we're here basically to talk about the mindset it takes to become a winner. And in fact, winning is what we're going to be talking about today. We also do spend a lot of time sharing concepts of how to recruit effectively for your business, certainly talk about social media and how to effectively use social media to grow your business, and just a variety of topics. Now, if you go to the show page, which is at www.jamesholmesradio.com, you can listen to any of the prior episodes of this podcast there on the show player. And it would definitely be worth, I think, your time to go back and scroll down through the list of shows we've had in the past. And you'll note that sometimes we have guests on the show. It isn't as common, but certainly that does happen and will happen more. As I mentioned, I think last week, that one of my objectives going forward is to bring you on a more regular basis leaders in specific niches or specific skill sets within our industry to help you just to continue to gain the knowledge you need to go forward in growing your business. Now, a couple of things before we get started with today's program. I want to share with you the address to my primary blog. And the reason I want to encourage you to go visit that blog is kind of twofold. One is that it definitely is the place where you can connect with me. If you see something on this program that interests you and you want to get more information, or if there is a resource that I talk about and failed to give you a link to, for instance, or if you thought you heard something but you weren't really sure exactly what was meant and you want some clarification, or you want to provide feedback, which I always encourage. One of the things that will allow me to be more effective to add value to you is to know what it is you're struggling with, or to know what it is you're doing that's working really well for you, or to know if there are things that you'd like to know more about. Your feedback helps me to be able to bring content to you 5 days a week that's relevant to where you're at in developing and growing your business. So I really encourage you to use that blog as kind of the home base for contacting me. In addition to following up on the show notes that I post every day now, just the follow-up to what we're doing here on our daily program, in addition to a number of other posts and resources to help you grow an internet-based business, regardless if you are, as I say, in direct sales, network marketing, or affiliate marketing. It's all relevant. The other reason I want you to go visit my blog is right now I'm doing a giveaway event. And what I'm essentially doing is I have a vault of digital products that will be available to you for download. And it includes special reports, ebooks, software, video training, audio MP3 files. It's about $1,000 worth of training material. And I'm giving it away during the month of August to anyone who opts into my list and simply asks for it. There's a reason for it that has to do with me moving one of my lists from one autoresponder service to another, which is what started this whole thing. And if you just go to that blog, you actually can read a post from a few days ago where I actually did a video and explained the whole thing. But the bottom line is there's no strings attached. You simply just ask for the package, and I will, once you opt in, confirm with an email, and I'll be sending the information to you. And so you'll be able to take advantage of that. So that address is www.askjamesholmes.com, askjamesholmes.com, and you'll be able to access everything there. Today we're going to talk a little bit about winning, and if you're a regular listener of the podcast and now viewer of the vcast, you know that Fridays tend to be a little bit different for me. And what it basically comes down to is I think Monday through Thursday, we really talk about just some core, business principles that I share during the course of our program. And what tends to happen with me anyway on Fridays, I wake up and start thinking about the weekend, start kind of doing a review of the week that's just passed. And I always spend a little bit of time thinking about what it is that I want to kind of set up to accomplish going forward into the new week. And so it always ends up having me kind of thinking about, goals and objectives and kind of what was accomplished to meet those. And that's why oftentimes on Fridays you'll hear me talk a lot more in a general sense about, getting the things you want out of life. And like today, my subject is winning. And I want to talk to you about winning. And I want to say to you right up front that it's okay for you to want to be a winner. One of the things that I've noticed, and I don't know what it is in this day and age, that people sometimes shy away from talking about wanting to win. And I think that it has a lot to do with, I think, a misconception that because you have a desire to win, it must mean that you're going to force someone else to lose. And I want to give you a slight little paradigm shift on that a person who is in a contest, if they see themselves, let's say in a one-on-one competition, if they lose that competition, it's up for them to decide whether or not they view that as being, I've heard it said that, second is first loser. In fact, if you know my background, I used to do motorsports marketing and did sponsorship development for IndyCar teams. And one of my clients was Jeff Andretti, who is one of Mario Andretti's sons. And he and his cousin John Andretti, I heard them on an interview one time, talking about this theory that they had that being second in a race was nothing more than being first loser. And I'm not here to criticize that feeling. What I'm here to say is that they get to own that if that is what their mindset is, and if that's what they believe and that's what allows them to continue to strive to win, then hey, I'm all for that. I understand that as an athlete and understand what that's all about. But what I'm here to say to you that as it relates to your business, that being second or being competitive, of a competitive mindset, if you don't win on a given day, don't look at it as being first loser. Look at it as being, what didn't I bring to the table on this day that I can now, go back and, make some corrections to, sharpen some skills, get more education, whatever is required to put you in a position that the next time you're in a position to win, that you actually do win. And so I want to give permission to all of you that deep down in your heart have the desire to be a winner, that it's okay for you to verbalize that and to act upon that. And what I want to do is, I went through some notes this morning from a program. I tend to really try to learn on purpose. And what I mean by that is, when I sit in front of a television, it's either for pure recreational entertainment, because I tend to watch, cycling events, which I'm passionate about, auto racing events, which I'm passionate about, or equestrian events, which I'm very passionate about. I tend to not spend too much time watching, mindless stuff, although I must confess I'm a little bit of a reality television junkie in some, certain niches of that whole genre, mostly as it relates to people that are in business or striving to achieve something, and the shows that kind of follow their journey. But apart from that, I tend to want to learn on purpose. And there's this really great CNBC program that I saw a couple of years ago that was really about the New England Patriots football team, and what it is that causes them to be such a winning dynasty and have such a legacy of success and being very big winners. And I live here in Denver, Colorado, and it's preseason. NFL training camps are in full swing right now. And if you know anything about Denver, you know that Denver is a very big football town, that the Broncos are a very important part of the culture here in Denver, Colorado. And growing up, I had the privilege of going to a lot of football games because my dad had season tickets in the notorious South Stands. And so, from my very earliest memory, I remember sitting in the South Stands with all the rowdy fans cheering on a Broncos team that didn't win the majority of the time. They usually ended up managing to have winning seasons, but never really broke through to the postseason, and certainly never made it to the Super Bowl until that magical season in 1977. And then, the perspective of the fans here really changed, because then it was an expectation that the team would be, a winning Super Bowl team. And then to fast forward into the 90s, we remember that John Elway led the Broncos to 2 consecutive Super Bowl victories. And so then, it was, again, breaking through to a whole nother level of expecting to have a winner in Denver. And so if you know what's going on right now in Denver, you know that Josh McDaniel is the new head football coach. That he actually, took over for Mike Shanahan, our legendary coach that was unceremonially fired at the end of last season. And this new, what was assistant coach, Josh McDaniel from the New England Patriots football team, is now our head coach here in Denver. So this morning I'm going through my notebooks, which I do a lot, and you'll know that too if you're a regular follower of mine, that I take a lot of notes when I'm in a learning opportunity. And I happen to be watching this CNBC program, like I said, a couple of years ago, about the New England Patriots. And I found my notes about that particular program. And it was really like perfect, because it really, kind of fit in line with what I wanted to talk about today, which again is winning. And so I want to share with you just a little bit from my notebook. And if you're watching on the VCast, you see that this is indeed my notes from my notebook. And what I want to do is share with you some things that I have always believed about the New England Patriots. And this will all make sense at the end. So even if you're not a sports fan, stick with me, because there's a real relevant business lesson at the end of this little bit of a history lesson on the New England Patriots football team. Now, when I was growing up and going to all those Broncos football games, through the mid to late 70s, throughout the 80s, I knew the New England team to be the worst team in the league. In fact, I would kind of put the New England Patriots, the New Orleans Saints, sorry for all you New Orleans fans, and also the St. Louis Cardinals, as being, 3 teams that you never expected to ever win. Although I have to admit that there were some bright moments in the Saints, past during those years. But, basically those teams were at the bottom of the league. And New England was probably the worst of them all. And with the exception of a random appearance in the Super Bowl in the 80s, they usually were losing football games. And in the 70s, they were just atrocious. They were not a very good football team at all. And that had been their legacy until the time that they were acquired in more recent years by the Kraft family. And I want to kind of share with you some statistics that I thought were interesting. Now, Mr. Kraft purchased the team in 1994. And at the time that he bought the team had the number 1 losing record in the league. They were the last team. They were at the dead bottom of the league historically in every measurable sense. They had the worst losing record. They were the least in terms of monetary value. In terms of the franchises being appraised, the New England Patriots at the moment he bought that team carried the lowest appraisal. It was the lowest valued team in the league. It also had the worst revenue, and the team was just not making any money. And it just comes back to when you're not winning, you're not generating income. That goes true in business. There's the first business lesson for you. If you're not winning, you're not generating revenue. They had an 18-0 record in 2007 and 2008 to contrast what he acquired in 1994 when he bought that team. And they're really on their way to, toppling the record of the 1972 Miami Dolphins, which was an undefeated season. Since that time, leading up to a couple of years ago, they had 3 Super Bowl appearances. I think they have now had 4, if I'm not mistaken. I think there was, in fact, the year that I saw this particular documentary, it was leading up to a Super Bowl that they lost to the New York Giants. But they had been in the Super Bowl in 2004 and 2005 consecutively, and then one previous appearance in 2002. So total, I believe, of 5 Super Bowl appearances in total. And Mr. Kraft had an interesting quote in this documentary, and he said, if you are not passionate about the game, get out of it, which is the second business lesson I've got for you. So the first one is, if you're not winning, you're not generating revenue. The second lesson is, if you're not passionate about what you're doing, find something else to do, because it's going to be difficult to win, if at all, certainly consistently, if you're not passionate about what you're doing. And so find something to be passionate about if your desire is to win. So we go on to tell the story that the winning percentage now, since Mr. Kraft has acquired this team, is at 70%. At least it was as of a couple of years ago. And the value of the team went up to $1.2 billion, according to Forbes, which for that particular year that appraisal was done, made the team the number 3 in terms of value, the third most valuable team in the league. And so in the span of a decade, he took a team from being the least valued team to having it be a $1 billion organization that ranked number 3 in all of the NFL in terms of team value. So there was a kind of an interesting quote from Tom Brady in this documentary as well, when speaking about Mr. Kraft. And he said, what sets him apart is that he is always focused on the end game and the steps required to get there. So there's another business lesson for us. And that business lesson is, do you know where you're going? And if you don't know where you're going, it is impossible for you to be focused on the end game. There's no way that you can do that. And so the lesson there in Tom Brady's quote is to be focused on the end game. Know what your goals are and your objectives, which are two separate things that we will get into in more detail. But the word goal is thrown around a lot. The word objective, not very often. If I had to choose between one or the other, I would choose objectives, because those are much more focused and targeted. Goals sometimes are kind of like a dream. And what I want to help you begin to focus on to really win in your business is what your objectives are. What are you setting out to accomplish? And if you can really be clear about that and get that on paper and put it somewhere where it's prominent, so you're reminded every day of what your objective is, you then know what steps you need to take to get there. And that's the lesson there. And Mr. Kraft, Robert Kraft, the owner of the Patriots, had an interesting quote as well in this program. And what he said was that, I believe you can will things to happen. You have to have faith. You have to work hard, but you can will things to happen. And I would have to think that, when he purchased that team in 1994, with the kind of record the team had and the kind of history that the team had, I can only imagine the level of skepticism that greeted his decision to buy the team. I can only imagine the number of people that were maybe true experts and self-proclaimed experts, friends and family members, that thought he'd lost his mind, that thought, why would you spend good money? and I believe it was millions, even though the team was a very poor team. Why would you choose that team? And it can relate to where you're at perhaps in your business. And if you've had the experience where someone, once they found out that you were going to go into, let's say, the network marketing business, or that you were going to try to establish a successful business online, or that you were going to go into direct sales, and that you might even be abandoning what they have known you to be in terms of your profession your entire career. And they're probably wondering, have you gone crazy? Have you lost your mind? What Mr. Kraft has to say that I think is really relevant to all of us is that you have to have that belief that your own belief and faith can literally will things to come into your to leaning your way. And I believe that, and I've taught that to you before. We've talked a lot about the whole idea behind the power of attention, of intention, and the power behind the law of attraction. And I don't mean just in the kind of surface level commercial sense law of attraction. I mean in the biblical sense, and in the sense that is consistent throughout both Eastern and Western tradition. If you look back historically, of the power of your thoughts and the power of your beliefs in bringing things to pass, and how if you really are laser focused and have a sufficient emotional feeling behind what it is you believe, and so that your faith is sufficient, that you will begin to see that things begin to come your way, that the people you need, that the resources you need, and the opportunities that you need to bring your objective to reality will begin to appear in your life. And if you're focused on those, now we can call them, maybe goals, the things that you're desiring, the dreams you have, along with your objectives, if they're in alignment, will cause you to see those opportunities and to not let those pass you by, and will hopefully move you to action. And so just as Robert Kraft, had a vision for what he wanted to create in New England, you need to have a vision for what you want to create in your business and have very specific goals so that you know where you're heading and you know what your objective is. So let's think about what Robert Kraft did. Now, here he is. He's already proven that he's kind of a contrarian in thought, and that, I would only imagine, I don't know this for a fact, but I would imagine there may have been other teams that were for sale at the time that he decided to acquire the lowly New England Patriots. And, if you're a New England fan, don't be offended. I love the Patriots now. I thought they were, again, in my experience growing up, that they were kind of a joke of the league. But, now I've come to respect them completely because of their winning traditions. But what does he do? After he buys this team that is at the bottom of the league, the bottom of revenue, the bottom in terms of value, does he go out and find for himself, a top flight coach, the most highly decorated coach available at the moment, whoever that was? He doesn't do that. He goes out and hires Bill Belichick. Now, what was Bill Belichick's experience up to that point in time? Well, he was the coach of the Cleveland Browns. And he only had one winning season out of 5 years. So he broke 500. He had won more than 50% of his games one season out of 5 seasons when Bill Belichick was hired by Robert Kraft. Why would Robert Kraft go out and hire a losing coach 4 out of the 5 seasons prior to lead the worst team in the league to this goal that he had, or this objective of creating a dynasty, which is what his objective was? Well, here's what he said. He said he liked, that Robert Kraft liked Bill Belichick's management style, and he liked the fact that he actually had earned a minor degree in economics. That's interesting. Now, Robert Kraft's a successful real estate developer and successful businessman, and I can see why he had the appeal of the economics background, but still it's not making a lot of sense if I was looking at this from the outside looking in and not having the benefit of now knowing what would happen over the next decade. But it certainly probably didn't seem to make a lot of sense at the moment that hire was made. And, Belichick's, the way he refers to his relationship with Robert Kraft is that it's a partnership. And so here's another lesson for you, for your business, that sometimes the talent that you're seeking, let's say if you're in network marketing and you're looking to grow an organization and you're looking for people that are talented, sometimes their results to date don't tell the whole story. And what it would serve you well to do is to look deeper into the philosophy of the person and determine whether or not they have the raw, undeveloped talent to become a winner, and whether or not they can contribute to you getting to your objective. So Kraft said his stated objective, and he used that word, by the way, was to sustain excellence. And I think if you're at all a fan of football, you know that he's achieved that goal very well. And he talks about having an ethical will. And he said he learned that theory or that philosophy from his father. And that a good name is the most important thing that you can achieve in this world. And so it's all about going out there and acting with honesty and with unquestioned integrity. And your ethical will is essentially what you pass on to your heirs in terms of your ethics. And so your good name being the principal part of that. And so here's another great business lesson, that you always, in all ways, at all times, act ethically with the idea that your good name, your personal brand, and that of your organization is the most important thing that you have. It may be the passing on is that you're going to pass it on to your downline or to people that you bring into your organization after you've decided that you're going to kind of semi-retire. And so that's a great way to kind of, relate that lesson. And here's another key critical lesson, and this is one that I personally believe with every fiber of my being, and that is that you must differentiate yourself. That you don't want to do, what you want to do is do what others are unwilling to do. And that you don't want to just kind of go along with the herd. It doesn't mean that you should be a maverick or a rebel in every situation, because there is definitely something to be said in systems and in philosophies that are proven. We went into this in great detail over the last couple of days on this podcast, talking about that things that are the traditional ways of building your business should run on a parallel track to what you implement on the internet and through social media. That it isn't really, I don't believe, a choice of one or the other, that these two things can really work together. They can work in unison, and they can run on parallel tracks. And so from Mr. Kraft saying, do what others won't do, look for a competitive advantage. And that's what I want to encourage you to do as well. So again, I think you can begin to see how some of these lessons are really beginning to take shape and provide us with some really critical business lessons. So let's talk a little bit about Robert Kraft and decide whether or not we think he's a winner. The Kraft Group holding company, as of a couple of years ago, operated several businesses, and their sales exceeded $1 billion. Robert Kraft, at the time this documentary was done, by best estimates, and I believe this was a Forbes estimate, his net worth was $1.3 billion. And so here's a man that grew up as a kid in a middle-class family, in New England, dreaming of one day owning those Patriots. It was one of the things that he shared, and creating for himself a $1.3 billion net worth. And so I would say Mr. Kraft, by every measure, not only financially, but also in his mindset and in what he's teaching to other people, in his principles, and in the level of his integrity, is certainly a winner. Interesting little highlights from this is that he donated $5 million to Columbia University, named the stadium. He is someone who I think you can look at and recognize that, yes, indeed, Robert Kraft is a winner. So what is the underlying business lesson, or what the takeaway that I'd like for you to have from our time together today? It's that I want you to know, first and foremost, as I talked about at the very beginning, that it's okay for you to have the desire to win. I think that as we go about our day in our business, it's important that it's okay to want to be a winner, and that there are lessons that you can learn and derive. This was a sports example I gave you today. It was an example of someone who had the faith to be able to see something that wasn't present at the time, and realize the objective, and then to be able to move forward day by day to bring about the reality. Now, one thing I didn't say was that Robert Kraft made the New England Patriots a winner, buying them in 1994, and then in 1995 they were a winning team. That wasn't the case. It took time. Over 10 years they built a dynasty. Over 10 years they ended up with these 5 Super Bowl appearances, and I think, if I'm not mistaken, I'm not a statistician, but I think it's 3 Super Bowl wins, if not 4. This didn't happen overnight. It happened over a 10-year period of focused effort. So the one thing I would say to you on your journey to becoming a winner is I'd love to see you determine that you're going to be deliberate about your winning, but recognize that it may take some time, and not to become discouraged after 90 days or 120 days if you haven't yet achieved your goal. One thing that is for certain, if you make choices on the front end, like the right company, you develop a deep enough belief in what you're doing, and if you give it enough time, you will also win. And that's what I think we're all here to do. What you do with the spoils of your success is up to you. It's to benefit your family, it's to benefit charities you believe in, it's to leave a legacy. And all those things are worthy goals, and worthy of your efforts, and worthy of your belief and conviction. Well, I hope you have a blessed weekend. Make the most of it. Try to live with some balance in it. and I'll see you back here on Monday. Thank you for being with me today.